before we start this video, a large thank you to Christopher, Dami T, a name I unfortunately cannot pronounce, thank you for the support, my friend. Alakrem, Ian, another name I unfortunately cannot pronounce, thank you for the support, my friend. Lucas, and John for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. And an immense and massive thank you to Halo Burner for their continued support of the channel this month on Patreon. I hope you enjoy the video, my friend. Hello everybody, we are back and we're going to finish the dialogue system this episode. I've had so many technical difficulties, so if the video is split in weird places, please bear with me. So let's start and go over to the character sound effect manager, and I'm going to make a protected virtual void start, and I am going to override that immediately on the AI character sound effect manager. So right below that on the base.start, I'm going to say current dialogue is equal to, and we're going to get the dialogue from our world save game manager.instance, and we're going to use that function we created to get character dialogue based, what's it called, by enum? Oh, we don't have that made yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. We're going to create that. Okay, so we're going to use an enum here. We've already made the enum. Call it character dialogue ID. Call this character dialogue, and we're going to throw that in this function that we're going to make, and based on this, we're going to get a character dialogue. So whenever your NPC spawns in the world, they're going to say, hey, world save game manager, give me what dialogue I'm supposed to have based on my ID. And we can do the same thing with the farewell dialogue. Okay, I'm going to comment that out for now because it's going to give us an error. If not, let's go over to the project and open up the world save game manager. Now this will be pretty straightforward. We're just going to iterate through a plausible list of different IDs, and we're going to get them based on where we're currently at in our dialogue. I'll call it stage. Another way to think of this is think of every character having a quest, and the quest evolves as you talk to them. Just picture it. Every time you talk to them a certain amount of times, you progress their quest further. Depending on where you're at in their quest, you will get their specific dialogue branch. That's just one way to think of it, of course. So, public character dialogue, get character dialogue by enum. Let's make that require our character dialogue ID. We're going to do a switch statement, and we're going to switch our character dialogue ID. So, no dialogue ID is obviously going to give us no character dialogue, which is what most of your NPCs will probably have if you're making a Souls-like. And we can just copy the exact same thing with farewell. So we're going to return the dialogue. Right now, we are going to jump over to the character dialogue script. We're going to make a header called dialogue requirements. So this is where you need to be in that character's quote-unquote quest or their stage ID to get this dialogue. The first one obviously will be 0 for everybody. This will be the first dialogue you get with every character. And then depending on what number that dialogue changes the quest to, or the stage, you will get another one. So for example, if I have one branch that's 5 and one branch that's 4, and when you talk to a character at 0, picking option 1 or 2 if you make options in the future, will put the quest on 4 or 5, then depending on which branch you're at, you will get that next batch of dialogue. We're not going to handle yes or no decisions right now. We're just going to get the actual dialogue system up and working so you can just talk to them. And then you can add cool things like opening a shop on end, which we'll cover in the future, or just basically getting new dialogue. So let's go to the world save game manager up top and say system using system.collections. And then I'm going to do this because I need, oh, it's not collections, it's collections.generic, because I need to make a list of possible character dialogues. So we're going to make a list for the only character we have, which is called the Nameless Knight. So we're going to say Nameless Knight dialogues equals new list character dialogue, and we can do the same thing for the farewells. Now I'm just going to minimize this real fast, and right below that I am going to make a private character dialogue, and we can call this find dialogue by stage ID. And we can make this require a stage ID, which in my case is an int, because that's the value I'm using all the time. And we can pass a list. I don't think we need to pass by reference actually, because I think by default that is a reference. So let's make it require a list of character dialogues. And we can just call this dialogue list. Alright, now what we're going to do is simply iterate through this list and look for a match to the stage ID we are requiring. So for example, if we pass a stage ID of 5, we're going to look through every list, or rather the list that we pass, and look through every entry in that list. And if we find an entry that has a requirement of 5, then we know we found our dialogue. Very simple. So we're just going to say if dialog I is equal to null, continue. It shouldn't be, but just in case. Then we're going to say, oh, why is that giving me grief? Oh, that should be dialog list I, my bad. And then we're going to say if dialog list I dot required stage ID is equal to the stage ID we are passing, then we can basically break off of this and stop it. We're going to say dialog is equal to dialog list I, and we can end this right now or break. So we're going to say break, and then we're going to say return dialog. Okay, so down here, we're going to say find dialog by stage ID, and then we're going to pass the stage ID that we need, which will be for the nameless night. So we're going to say nameless night stage ID, and then we can pass the nameless night dialogues. All right, pretty straightforward. Again, you could do the exact same thing here for farewell if you want. Just passing the ID and doing it with the relevant list, which we don't have, so I'll quickly make it. We can say nameless night. Instead of dialogues, we can say farewell dialogues. Then we can scroll down. We could copy the exact same thing here. And just instead of posting the nameless night dialogues, we just pass the nameless night farewell dialogues. Okay, cool. Gonna save that now. And now I'm going to jump back over here to my AI character sound effect manager. And I'm gonna uncomment out this pseudocode. Current farewell dialogue is equal to. Whoops, it's not current farewell, it's just farewell. I'm going to save that again. And now I'm going to go back to the project and I'm going to create a new AI dialogue. So I'm going to set up all my dialogues here now. So again, some important notes. 1, make sure that you have the exact same number of strings and audio, or you will throw yourself the warning or error message that we put in there. And the required stage ID, again, is the required stage ID that it has to be to get this dialogue in the start. So your first dialogue should always be 0 because that's where your stage ID, if you're doing it like I am, is going to start off. Now your second dialogue, you want it to have a requirement. You don't just want it to have 0 also, or else it's just going to pick the first one it finds. So I'm going to make mine 5 arbitrarily. You could make it 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. I'm just picking 5. I like to go up by numerals of 5 in case I decide I want to put something in between them. It's never happened yet, but you never know. And then just do the same thing with your second dialogue. And I'm going to make some farewell dialogue 1 and 2 as well. So my dialogue 1 is just going to consist of a couple lines that I will pre-record off video. And so will dialogue 2. And then I will do the same thing with farewell 1 and 2. And I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this just so we have some variation here. Make sure I check my required stage ID. So it's going to be 0 for the first one and 5 for the second one. The text will be goodbye again. And I am going to make sure that's good. Yes, and now I've went ahead off video through the magic of video editing and fast forward as I have these audio clips, and you will hear them when I test it. So I'm going to put dialogue 1, line 1, and then dialogue 1, line 2. This is just how I like to type it out. It's a bit of a workflow. If you don't like it, maybe call it something different. But I have nameless night dialogue 01 and 2, and then I had the lines called dialogue 01, line 01, and dialogue 01, line 02. Why is this? Well, you obviously sometimes can't fit all the dialogue in one single pop-up, so we do it through several. And these dialogue containers are basically sets of dialogue, and each set has an X number of lines. So I find that naming it that way makes it less confusing for me, but do with it whatever you want. Now over on the World Save Game Manager, make sure you drop in your dialogues in the list that we have created. So I got 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 for the night dialogues and the farewell. Again, just checking over my required stages just real quick. I got 0 and 5, then I got 0 and 5. That looks all good to me. I'm going to tick set stage after this first dialogue. So basically when it's done, it will set the stage to 5, which will then get me my second dialogue, because on dialogue ended, we want to, if set stage index, what do we want to do here? Well, we're going to say world save game manager dot instance dot set stage of dialogue. This is on the character dialogue, by the way. Now we don't have this function yet, so let's go make it. And let's make this public on the AI character sound effect manager, the character dialogue ID, because we're going to need that. I'm going to require this to pass the AI character sound effect manager dot character dialogue ID. And then we're going to pass the stage. And the stage ID right here, and actually I think we do have this. Let me just paste this. No, we don't. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself again. Public void set stage of dialogue. Let's make this require a character dialogue ID, and then the stage that we set. So as you probably guessed, we're just going to use this enum to flick through all potential characters that have dialogue. And based on that, we're going to set the proper variable for its stage ID here with that. So we could say character dialogue, boom, and there. Now, this is one of those situations where if you have many, you could definitely use like a dictionary style setup. But because I just have the one right now, and even in my game Nephilim, I think I'm only going to have like probably a dozen. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put them there as integer variables. But I mean, if you want to be cleaner, that's a good way to go about it. I'll make a note on that actually when we serialize it and save it. So just set the index to whatever it is right here using our switch statement, and we're good to go. And I'm just going to save that as it is. And now I'm going to go to my start, make sure the current dialogue is gathered. Yes, but now we need to get a new dialogue when it's ended. So we're going to say current dialogue, and we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to copy and paste it there because every time the dialogue is over, you want to check to see if you have a new one. Now I'm going to drag my dialogue interactable object in here and make a prefab. I'm going to delete it from this character, I mean. Then I'm going to go to the World AI Manager, and I'm going to make a prefab or a variable for this where we could instantiate our prefab. So let's make a header for dialogue prefab, and let's just make this a game object right here. So we're going to say dialogue interactable prefab, actually. And we're going to say public game object dialogue interactable. Now, since our AI characters are being spawned after we load into the world, it's safe to instantiate this on start. So that's what we're going to do because they're not spawning at the same time as the network. They're not spawning on the main menu. So let's go, before we do that though, go over to our character and make the variable for the dialogue interactable. And we're just going to instantiate that and save it there so we can toggle it on and off. For example, if the character gets in combat, you don't want to have the dialogue interactable be available. Hi, FutureSep here. I'm putting this on network spawn right now. I'm going to move it to start on the AI sound effect manager. So you can ignore this if you want, or you can follow along, but this is a mistake. This does not belong here because you might get interaction where it won't be able to get a variable because it'll be null, but I'm going to move it shortly. Okay, so I'm just going to say if AI character sound effect manager dot character dialogue does not equal character dialogue dot no dialogue, AI character sound effect manager dot interactable dialogue object equals, and we're going to instantiate a copy of this object at our transform. So we're going to do that by saying instantiate, and we're going to say world AI manager dot instance dot dialogue interactable. There we go. And then we're going to say AI character dot sound effect manager dot interactable dialogue dot get component network object. And we're going to say dot spawn. Okay, I'm going to make this go onto the transform like so. And then I'm just going to get the network object again. I'm going to try to set the parent because of the way Unity's netcode works. If we want to parent an object under another object, and both of these objects are a network object, then you have to use try and set parent. Now, this isn't as important for the dialogue collider because a guest won't be able to interact with it anyway, but just so you know the practice, you would say AI character sound effect manager dot interactable object dot get component network object dot try set parent, and then pass the parent that you want, which in our case is this game object, and then true. So we referenced network object here twice, so if you want to, you could also just get a network object variable just to make the code, I guess, a little bit cleaner, and say originally from here, boom, like so, and then instead of just doing it this way and calling get component twice, just use the network object, just to save that tiny bit of memory for that one get component call. All right, I'm going to go and set the dialogue ID to my nameless knight here. I'm going to save him in his prefab to make sure it's all good to go. Cool, and then I'm going to make sure he's going to spawn in the world by setting up on a spawner. So I'm just going to go into my world scenes real quick, open up the main world scene, and drag the rest of these scenes in, and boom, there he is, right in that doorway. Maybe I'll move him around, but for now, that's where he's going to stay. And I'm also going to untick is sleeping because he's not sleeping. I just copied my boss spawner. I'm going to save this now, like so. And then I'm going to jump back over to the project, drag in the dialogue collider in the variable for the world AI manager. Going to move this from on network spawn to start. I don't know why I put it there. It's supposed to be over here. And now on the AI character sound effect manager on start, just delete the reference to AI character sound effect manager because we're already there. You're also going to need to say using Unity netcode here if you want to not have an error if it's not already there because we're using the network object. All right, that looks good. I'm going to save that. I'm going to move the get farewell and current dialog inside this check for if we don't have the no dialog ID. I was wondering why I couldn't get a dialog in game. I forgot to say dialog is equal to find dialog. Otherwise, we're never assigning local variable. Also, I did one thing that was a mistake. We should not be incrementing our dialog index until after. So pass this yield return, wait for seconds, then add the index. And here is the result now.
Hello there. Why are you speaking to me? Please leave me alone.
Okay, cool. So a couple more things you have to do. Also, if you want to refresh this right now, you're going to have to enable and disable and re-enable the interactable collider because right now to talk to him again, to see the pop-up anyway, we have to leave and walk back in the circle. But that's entirely up to you if you want to do that. Now we can go into the script again and we need to basically disable the pop-ups at a certain point here. And we have that on the AI pop-up or the player UI pop-up manager. But what we want to do that is right actually where we start the dialog. So we're going to close the pop-up manager here on send next dialog pop-up index and then say pop-up window is open is true and do the same thing on send dialog pop-up right before we start the coroutine. Why is this? Because our interactable manager is always checking for interactables and it will actually pop up the talk interactable right in the middle of your dialog if you try to talk to them again while this is open. So if you try to skip to the next dialog, basically that'll pop up, but putting that there will stop it. So next on the dialog header, let's make a dialog header for the character save manager. I'm gonna make one for the nameless knight. Again, I have a note here. You should use a dictionary if you have a lot of characters, but I just have the one, so I'm gonna make one int variable here because it's just gonna be passing one time. Now over here on the set stage of dialog, let's make another bit of code here and say current character data dot nameless knight stage ID is equal to, and then we pass the nameless knight stage ID. Cool, so we have a way to save it. Now how do we load it? Well, we can do that over on the World Save Game Manager too. So right below that, I'm going to say private void get stage ID on start. And then all we got to do, and again, make sure you call this after your character has loaded their current character save data. We just have to set it from whatever the current character save data is by saying nameless knight dialog stage ID is equal to current character data dot nameless knight stage ID. So what I'm going to do is go up to where we load our game. So here we go on load game. And I am going to call this immediately after the current character data is assigned, which will be right here. So I'm going to rename that to get stage IDs on load because the name makes more sense that way. Rename get stage IDs on load. Apply. Okay, looks good. Now, let's save that. And let's jump over to the AI Character Network Manager. Let's override. I don't even think we have an overrideable actually. No, we don't. Okay, let's go to the Character Network Manager really quickly. And let's get the lock on target ID change, make it a virtual void. And we're going to override that. Now, why are we doing this? Well, if your character gets a target, it means they're in combat, most likely. And you don't want to be able to talk to them and have normal dialogue while they're in combat. So what we're going to do is simply check for a target, and if the target is not null, then we're going to disable the character dialog game object if they have one. And optionally, if the target is null and you want to re-enable it, then you can do that as well. So we're going to say if AI character combat manager does not equal null, and if the AI character sound effect manager interactable dialog object does not equal null, we're going to simply set the interactable dialog object to inactive. And I'll make a comment here just really quickly, just so it's very clear why this is here. If your character has a target, disable the interactable collider. And then down here, optionally, re-enable it when the target is gone. And I'm just going to copy this and paste it, and we're going to change the set active from false to true, and we're going to make sure our target is null.
Hello there. Why are
You can see if I leave, it cancels the dialogue.
Why are you speaking to me? Please leave
And
me
that is
alone.
working as intended. However, we don't actually play our farewells either right now.
I
So
want to talk
I can talk to this person here, and you can see it goes to the next dialogue branch. It goes from the first one to the second one. Very cool. Now, if I leave the game and come back in, and I load back into my scene,
You again?
he remembers the stage ID and goes right to the second dialogue. Okay, cool, working as intended, but we don't play our farewells, so let's do that. Now, erase this get character farewell function. I've had some time to think about this because this system is pretty much the prototype system from Nephilim, and I've changed it since. We don't need to get a farewell. I don't know why I overthought this. Delete the play farewell dialogue as well. We can just handle farewells exactly like the greetings. If they're there, use them and pick one randomly, and if they're not, don't. I honestly don't know what I was thinking with this, but that happens when you write. Sometimes you just write, and you look back at it after it's done, and you go, yeah, that doesn't make much sense. So copy the greeting dialogue system completely and change it from greeting to farewell. And we're going to just change the keyword greeting to farewell. There we go. There we go. Looks good. And now just come down here where you do the play dialogue coroutine and do the exact same thing after your core dialogue has passed and check for a farewell instead. And we're going to check from a random farewell. And not all dialogue has to have a farewell, but if it does, there you go. It'll play it. So we can erase the get farewell dialogue on start and save that. I'm trying to go a bit faster here and clip some stuff in editing because the video is getting kind of long. And I'm just going to quickly basically drop in my farewells to my core dialogue now instead of having them as separate objects and delete them. I'm also going to go to the World Save Game Manager and delete the farewell dialogue list. And we're going to save that. Okay, so real quick before we continue to go to your World Save Game Manager and make sure you are instantiating a copy of the dialogue and not simply returning it. Why is this important? And also check if it's null. Because if you start a new game and get someone's dialogue to say 2 in the index of a dialogue container and leave, and then start another new game, since that dialogue container was not basically instantiated as a copy, it will continue from dialogue index 2, meaning it will skip a whole line.
You again? I don't want to talk to you. Goodbye again.
There we go. Cool. All right, the farewell plays. All right, guys, there you go. Working as intended. So, 2 notes. Remember, if you want the dialogue pop-up to appear again after you're done, then on end, or some time after the pop-up, simply refresh the interactable collider in some way by disabling it and re-enabling it, or just send the pop-up to the player again. You can talk to the character again. The interaction pop-up text is just not there. So if you prefer it to be there, just simply refresh or send the message again. The second point is this system, like I said, is ripped from Nephilim, and it is a system that is very, very juvenile. It's not very old. I've not tested it extensively. So unlike a lot of the other things in this tutorial series, if you find some issues or I've forgotten something, please let me know in the comments, and I will 100% revisit it. As always, thank you very much again for being here. A special thank you to my patrons. It is because of you the series continues to exist at all, and you have my immense and sincere gratitude. I hope you all have a very lovely weekend. Thank you to all the people that take the time to like, comment, and share the video. I will see you guys next week.